Hello, everyone, and welcome to our operations module. I understand that not all of our registered participants have joined yet, but we are just going to start first because we don't want to overrun. So, hi, my name is Victoria, and I am the leader of the operations team module team. So we're just gonna go over a few basics. So I think you all understand what the entrepreneur's deck is. So we hope that through these modules, you all will be able to learn a few basics, which might basically help you understand what the world of business is all about and maybe inspire you to start your own business. So um, we want you to understand that we are all just students and we are still learning. So if you have any criticism for us, feel free to let us know. And this is not just like a lecture from us to you. We want to learn from you as well. So feel free to join in on the discussion. And yeah, I hope we all get to learn from each other. So let's move on to the next slide and we will go over a few basics for Zoom etiquette. So we hope that throughout the session, you all will try to keep your mics muted because that will reduce the amount of like random noise that we have. But keep your videos on, please, so that we can see you all and like, you know, if you guys don't understand anything, we can see it from your facial expressions and we will try our best to explain. And then if you want to join in on the discussion, you can click the participants tab where you will find the blue hand, and that's the raise hand button. And once we notice, we will call on you and you can speak. And if you want to join in on like quick discussions, you can use the chat option, which is also at the bottom bar. And if you want to give a quick reaction, you can use the reaction button to clap or give a thumbs up. Next slide, please. Okay, so today we have a few of us here. So obviously there's me. My name is Victoria, and I am a freshman at the UBC Sauder School of Business. And here I also have my team. So first of all, we have Keshav. Do you want to say hi? Okay.
Hi, I'm Keshav. I'm also studying at the Sauder School of Business BCom at UBC. Feel free to reach out to me in case you have any queries.
Yep, so he's going to be on tech support duty today. So if you all have any problems, just private chat him. And then next we have Srijan.
Hi guys, my name is Srijan. I'll also be joining Sauder School of Business, and I'll be taking up a few topics in this module.
And then we have Dear.
Hi, I'm from India, Surat, and I'm currently studying in grade 12. So I'll be teaching or I'll be learning to certain parts of operation with you.
Right, and finally we have our founder, Smith.
Hello everyone, you must know me by now. I'm Smith, and I'll be helping you understand a few topics about operations today. So let's move on to the next slide.
So we want to know where you all are from. We all introduced ourselves, so now we want to know where you are from. So if you want to type in the text box, a chat box, to tell us where you're from, that would be great, because we know that a lot of people from different countries sign up to join our modules. So we want to know who's here right now. So we have Surat, we have Hong Kong. Hi everyone. Surat. Cool. Interesting. We have a lot of participants from Surat. Thank you for joining us. Okay, I think we can move on to the next slide now. So, a simple question for everyone before, so I will pass the time to Dear now.
Yeah, so, okay.
So we just want to know what you guys think operations is, and this basic poll will help you understand and will help us understand what you guys know, and then we can move on to, better understand how to go about it.
Very interesting. We have like split between the first option and the third option, manufacturing products and managing relationships with suppliers. Hmm. To be honest, all of them are correct, and we're going to cover all of these aspects and even more aspects of operations in this module today. So now passing the time on to Dear.
Yeah, so operation management could be defined as like providing the right goods and services in the right quantity at the right quality level in the cost effective and timely manner. So operation management and business functions, as we all know, each functions of business are connected to each other. Hence, operation is even connected to many of the business function, which I'll be talking about. So the next part I would be continuing would be the operation manager has a direct experience of economies of scale and diseconomies of scale that may take place on the factory floor or may help in identifying some of the strengths and weakness of the organization that other departments would not necessarily know about. For example, a machine may be obsolete or likely to be high cost maintenance in the foreseeable future. So the operation management tries to reduce the cost in the mainly the operation sector, where it could reduce the cost of some machines which may be a burden to the company. The other function which I would be talking about is the operation management suggests that the non-financial rewards such as job rotation or teamwork may be suitable for the organization. The HR manager may not appreciate the fact that some forms of motivation may be a good in theory but not in practice. So operation often here is confused between the motivation, so which is not the case for HR when it comes to non-financial rewards. Thirdly, the operation manager may know which production costs, such as semi-variable or the variable cost, could be cut, which in turn would lead to an impact to the break-even point and the organization margin of safety. Lastly, the operation manager can advise on which product extension strategy may be easily implemented, that the marketing manager may have to invest ideas that would provide a higher result. So it is important to understand that operation management is not just about doing and delivering things. Operation management is an integral part of an organization, and it discusses the decision making process. So the certain examples could be that primary sector, like in operation mining and harvesting, secondary sector industrial manufacturing, and in the tertiary sector open heart surgery, and in quaternary business consultancy.
Okay, so what we were trying to exhibit just now is the fact that operations is not just producing goods and services, and it is not just doing and delivering, but it is in fact related to all sorts of like functions in a business. So as an example, I was actually an operations manager in my school's cafe, so I will be using that as a personal example to like better showcase this concept. So as the operations manager of the school cafe, my main job was to make sure that our students had like an adequate amount of like stocks of, you know, sandwiches and food items to eat every single day. And that basically requires stock management and, you know, reaching out to suppliers and also understanding, you know, the needs of our customers. So it's not just, you know, organizing and ordering. It's also understanding what our customers want, what our customers need, what they like, what they don't like, the trends in like when they like eating what. So that's one thing. And a second thing is maintaining relationships with suppliers. So for example, sometimes we had like big events, like in this picture, our open day, and this would result in like a very large amount of customers, like a large influx of customers. And this means that we would have to have way more stock than we would usually order. So what we had to do in this was reach out to our suppliers and, you know, um, let them understand this like event and what it requires, and like tell them our need for a sponsorship. And what they would do is like sponsor us with their products, which was actually quite helpful because then some of these customers would learn about their brand and would actually, you know, result in a mutually beneficial kind of like relationship between us and them. And lastly, another part of my job was to, you know, work with the other functions. So in our cafe, we had marketing and we had HR. And so HR was actually covered in last week's modules, and marketing will be covered in tomorrow and Sunday's modules. But anyways, the point is like operations is not a standalone function, as you heard from Dear's example just now. And I actually had to, you know, work what sort of products we had, and like work with HR to let them know like how they have to train the different cafe staff to know about our product varieties and whatnot. So all in all, what I'm trying to say is that operations management, as much as it is like known for just production and manufacturing and doing and delivering, that's not what it is. And there are many aspects to it which may sound boring but are actually quite interesting, and we hope that you enjoy exploring them in today's module. So now I'll be passing the time back to Srijan.
Okay, so guys, what does a role of operations management? What is the role of operations management? Basically, the role of operations management is divided into three parts, three imperatives. Firstly, it's generating recurring income. Second is increasing the value of business assets. And thirdly, and finally, it's the securing the income and value of business. So what does generating recurring income means? So as we can see from the slide, most straightforward and well understood management imperative of business operations. It is the simplest imperative amongst all of the three. So to define more, the recurring income, the more recurring income an asset generates, the more valuable it becomes. For example, the products that sell at highest volumes and prices are usually considered to be the most valuable products in a business's product portfolio. It is also known as residual or passive income. Recurring income is earned by creating or acquiring an asset that continues to pay off profits regardless of if there is still active work done on the asset. Recurring income may be treated differently by the Internal Revenue Service for the tax purposes. A few of the recurring income examples can be royalties from sale of book or song, income from ownership of a real estate investment property, or proceeds from renting a spare room on Airbnb. So these are the three basic examples of how generating recurring income works. Moving forward to increasing the value of business, added value is equivalent to increase in value that a business creates by undertaking the productive process. It is quite easy to think of some examples of how a production works that can add value. So basically the basic equation of adding value or increasing the value of business is adding value equals the difference between the price of the finished product and the service and the cost of inputs involved in making it. Let's consider an example of making new cars, rolling down the production line, being assembled by robots. The final completed and shiny car that comes off the production line has a value that is more than the cost of some of all the individual parts value, this shows that value has been added to the products or the separate parts that were assembled to create the final product that was the car. So exactly how much is determined by the price that a customer pays. That is what value is. Alternatively, imagine a celebrity chef preparing a meal at his luxury restaurant. Once the cooking is complete, the meal is being served and sold for a higher price. Substantially more than the cost of buying the ingredients, value has been added. So you don't have to use robots or have the culinary skills of Gordon Ramsay to add value. For example, businesses can add value by building a brand, delivering excellent service, product features and benefit, and offering convenience. So what are the key benefits of a business of adding value include? First is charging a higher price. Secondly, creating a point of difference from competition. Third, protecting from competitors trying to steal customers by charging lower prices. And lastly, it's focusing off a business more closely on its target and market segment. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah. So what does securing the income and value of business means? So by securing the income and value of business, we do not mean that all the income we have earned, we have to keep that in a safe or keep that in a locker and secure it. But it is necessary for every business to, so firstly, it is necessary for every business to generate income and value. But more importantly, it is important for every business to secure their income and value of business. By securing or holding on to that, I mean that maintaining a steady rate of income over the period of time, or letting not the value of business diminish. By value, we can refer to goodwill of the business or the total value, including everything, every asset, every liability deducted, and every goodwill that the company has in the market. Yes, that was the three imperatives of the role of management or operations management. Now I'll hand over to Keshav for the next part.
Yeah, production methods. During the production process, the business takes raw materials and components and convert them into the required product. At each stage, value is added to the product, creating added value. Do you know what types of product methods there are? Tell us in the chat box. Guys? Yes. There are mainly 4 types of production methods, which includes job production, batch production, mass production, and flow production. Job production is basically a one-off item specially designed for customers. It is a very specific type of production which entails a particular customer's needs, whereas mass production produces very large quantity of standardized products. Like for example, Pepsi, they produce more than tons of bottles each day, which is very standardized. However, if we talk about batch production can be a packet of Lays, although it is also considered as a very standardized production, but there are different flavors to it which are produced in batches. Lastly, we have flow production, which is producing items continuously moving process, also known as the line production. Moving on to a real life example that we have.
Before we move on to the real life example, I think Sayam said it correctly. Like to produce as much as possible, which is essentially mass production, where you produce the same thing in huge quantities. So the next example is about the same thing, which is mass production. Let's watch a video about how the plastic bottles are produced.
These little tubes of plastic, some just 5 centimetres high, will all end up as plastic bottles, full to the brim with fizzy pop. This factory churns out 72 million plastic bottles a year, and they all start life in the same way as a little miniature preform made out of a plastic called polyethylene terephthalate, a versatile thermoplastic resin which, when heated and cooled, retains its shape. It's used for fizzy pop bottles as it preserves the gas. Other materials would lose the fizz more rapidly. The process that turns these little tubes of plastic into grown-up bottles is called stretch blow moulding, which means that the plastic preforms get blown up and stretched into the correct shape and size in just a few seconds. These are 13 centimetre preforms for 2-litre bottles, and this machine works 24 hours a day, churning out 2.5 bottles per second. That's 9,000 an hour, 220,000 a day. They start by getting carried into an oven where, in just 40 seconds, they're heated to 125 degrees centigrade. This gets the preform hot enough to ensure maximum flexibility to blow and stretch the plastic. The piping hot tubes are then transferred into the 2-litre bottle moulds, where a rod gets injected down into the neck of the tube, stretching the plastic, while air is blown into the mould at a rate of 40 bar, that's around 580 psi. While the hot tube is being stretched and blown, cold water is circulated around the outside of the mould, which instantly cools the bottle down, and the condensation escapes in the form of steam. Now the bottle is completely solid and ready to be filled with pop.
And here's the final product, full of fizzy pop. Now, typically, a bottle of pop like this is at about 2 bar pressure, which is twice atmospheric pressure.
So these bottles have got to be immensely strong to take that kind of pressure.
And if you shake them up, the pressure just goes up. Fancy a top up, Rich?
Oh, I'd love one, thank you.
Rock that! Yeah, some of that!
Cheers, Johnny, that's lovely.
Okay, so as you can see in the example before, plastic bottles are made in huge batches, which is why it's under mass production. Different types of businesses require different types of production methods, which are based on its target market, what the actual product is, the technology it has, the machinery, the available resources, and also the government regulations. So these are the few criteria which business has to look at when they start producing something. And whatever production method they select, they need to look at these 4 criteria to make sure they have the best production method which works for them. So there's no single recipe or no single way to go about any production methods. You can either select one of the 4 production methods available, or else you can also combine one of them or 1 or 2 of them. So as I said, it always depends on the type of product you are developing, and also the few regulations of the government and the 4 criteria which I mentioned in the previous slide. Now we have a simple example for you, which is going to introduce by Keshav.
Hi, the intention of this case study is to make you guys understand the importance of the method of production and how it varies from different businesses. In this case, we have taken a case of Bristol Car Limited. Bristol Car Limited is a producer of luxury cars founded in 1945 in Bristol, UK. Only around 100 cars are made per year. Each car is uniquely produced, allowing the firm to claim that Bristol car is Great Britain's most exclusive luxury car. There is an emphasis on Great Britain's most exclusive luxury car. Bristol cars target the elite class of England. Here's the target market. The firm has no distribution and dealership. Every part of the car is given the necessary time and attention to detail to satisfy the customers, the clients. Only when each task is done to perfection can the highly skilled workers move on to the next task. The cost of production means it can take as long as to produce each car, but Bristol Cars Limited claim the car is produced for those who can afford and appreciate the best. A designated salesperson ensures that each customer receives a highly personalized service even after the sales of the car. So guys, this was the case study on Bristol Cars Limited, and Now I would like you guys to answer some following questions, some following guiding questions, which are in the next slide through the chat
If you didn't
function.
understand, if you didn't understand the case study, I'll stay on this slide for a few minutes. Just give it a look and read the entire case study once, and then we can move on to the guiding questions.
Yeah.
Just give us a sign using a thumbs up or put it up on the chats that you are ready, and then we can move on to the guiding questions. Okay. Okay, so assuming that you guys are done with reading, let's move on to the guiding questions. So the first guiding question asks us to explain or at least identify what type of production methods Bristol Cars must use or will use. If you have any answers for the same, you can unmute yourselves or put it up in your chat function.
Guys, raise your hands. We'll call you up for answering these questions, and we'll discuss upon it.
Okay, Sayyam has said Bristol Cars should use or have been using mass production to increase production. Let's have a few more answers if we can. If not, I'll be discussing Sayyam's answer. Bristol Cars, as we said, is a luxury car maker, as you can see in the case study, which means it only produces a few cars every year, which would make them a supplier or a brand which uses job production, because it only has a specific number of products and not like hundreds and thousands of cars made up. So I think job production would be the answer over here, because Bristol Cars is a luxury cars producer and it needs only a few cars every year to do its production and sales. Okay, yeah, Sayyam, go ahead.
But wouldn't more production lead to more sale in this?
Yes, you are right. In some cases, more production would lead to more sales. But then when you talk about luxury products, it only matters if there are only a few products to sell on. If you look at Rolex or Bentley, they only produce a few products every year, so that there is a huge demand for it. So when the Rolex launches one of its clocks, like watches, it's around $10,000 to $15,000, and then after 5 years, the prices increases to even $50,000 because there's such limited quantity around in the market. Oh, in that case, in Bristol Cars case, what matters is the scarcity of the product itself, not the mass production. To increase their revenue, they work on scarcity. No, they work on the quality and not the numbers. Okay, so what is R&D?
Research and development. Research and development refers to the innovation made by companies in order to develop a new good or a service or improve an existing one. Some companies highly rely on research and development as to provide high value to the customers. For example, a computer software company would spend much more on R&D than a retail sales company would. Technology companies survive by developing more effective technology than their competitors. A company like Apple has much employees that work in R&D because Apple competes in the market by first developing and then releasing devices that are better and more appealing than ones created by the competitors. Moving on next to the limitations. Although R&D has such gains in the market, but it also has some limitations to it. Like R&D is very high cost. R&D requires sufficient labor and financial resources. Amazon spends the most on research and development in 2018, which was about $26.2 billion in total, $22.6 billion in total. Their funding is primarily done from the retained profits, so spending highly on research and development might reduce the dividends to the shareholders. Moving on next, there is high failure rates. Sometimes the innovation is not viable in the market and does not create the needed value for the customers. Hence, some companies fail to achieve their ultimate goal. For example, Pepsi introduced their Crystal Pepsi drink, which was famous for the FIFA event, but then it lost its sales and its demand, and hence the research and development failed.
So research and development will also be introduced to you guys in the Tech and Innovation module, which would be next week. So please stay tuned for that module. Let's talk about quality management.
Okay, so guys, we'll be talking about total quality management in respect to quality management. So what does really mean TQM? So I'll be referring to firstly I'll be referring to total quality management as TQM in this presentation. So a core definition of total quality management describes a management approach to long-term success through customer satisfaction. In a TQM effort, all members of an organization participate in improving processes, products, services, and the culture in which they work. So if we can move to the next slide. So we'll be talking about primary elements of TQM. We'll be in this presentation, we'll be talking about primary elements of TQM as well as the benefits of TQM. So firstly, what are the primary elements of TQM? TQM can be summarized as a management system for a customer-focused organization that involves all employees in continual improvement. It uses strategy, data, and effective communications to integrate the quality discipline into the culture and activities of an organization. Many of these concepts are present in modern quality management systems, the successor to TQM. Here are 8 principles. Here are 7 principles of total quality management. So as we can see, first is customer focused. Second, total employee involvement. Third, process centered. Fourth, integrated system. Fifth, strategic and systematic approach. Sixth, continual improvement. And seventh, fact-based decision making. So we'll move on to the benefits that are provided by the total quality management. So total quality management is a term used to describe an organization's quality policy and procedure that has fallen out of favor as international standards for quality management. A few benefits that TQM provides are strengthened competitive position, adaptability to changing or emerging market conditions and to environmental and other governmental regulations, higher productivity, and enhanced market image. So for TQM, there is an example that we are providing, that is Kaizen. So what really is Kaizen? Kaizen is a Japanese term meaning for change for the better or continuous improvement. It is a Japanese business philosophy regarding the process that continuously improve operations and involves all employees. Kaizen sees improvement in productivity as a gradual and methodical process. The concept of Kaizen encompasses a wide range of ideas. It involves making the work environment more efficient and effective by creating a team atmosphere, involving everyday procedures, ensuring employee engagement, and making a job more fulfilling and less tiring and safer. So as we can see on the presentation, we have 5S framework: sort, straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain. So these 5S can be these 5S are being practiced in business, but these 5S can also be implemented in our life. Next we have supply chain management, and I'll hand it over to Smith for that.
So the last topic for today, which I think personally would be the most interesting topic, would be supply chain management. So what to understand an example which I've taken up in the next slide, let's understand what exactly supply chain management is, and I'll give you the definition for the same. So supply chain management is a system-wide of connections, including organizations, information, resources, and operations that a business needs to produce goods and services. Business needs to produce goods and services to its customer. So when you talk about supply chain, you talk about suppliers, you talk about your consumers, and how to join two of them. So let's take an example which is very relatable. If not relatable, then a bit of funny aspect to it: toilet paper. So some of you might know that in the Northern America, in the United States and Canada, there has been, or there will be, or there has been a shortage of toilet paper, and people have been just flooding the retail stores and buying as much toilet paper as they can, which has led to a decrease in total inventory in all the toilet paper stores. So let's start with a video, and then I'll provide you with the supply chain of toilet paper itself.
I'm on a mission to find toilet roll. Weeks after the start of the coronavirus pandemic, it's still hard to source. Here in Washington, the shop shelves are bare. But one place I know that should still have some is the office. There's nobody there. We're all working from home, so surely there's a big supply there that must be going unused. Nobody will mind if I just sneak in and help myself.
Well, the office toilet paper isn't ideal, but it's better than nothing.
Question is, what can this teach us about supply chains? And where's the rest of the toilet paper gone? Shortages aren't just a US problem. Coronavirus lockdowns meant bare shelves from east to west. Initially, the issue was put down to stockpiling, people panic buying, and herd mentality. Nobody wants to be the one that's caught short. But from another point of view, you could claim consumers are being sensible. More time at home means more toilet rolls needed. Paper manufacturer Georgia-Pacific reckons the average US household will use about 40% more paper by staying home. Instead of about 3 rolls each person per week, that's more than 4. The disruption we're talking about isn't the global supply of raw paper pulp. It's about how the paper gets made and who it's for. The market for toilet paper is split between commercial and consumer uses. That's things like offices, restaurants and hotels, and people buying it for themselves at home. And the two markets are completely different. So you can't shift commercial toilet paper into the shops. The paper you buy at a supermarket is packaged and branded in rolls of 6 or 12, nicely decorated, and often has ointments or scents added to it. But the supply for offices usually lacks that luxury touch. They come from different paper mills and involve different production standards. The packaging itself doesn't just look different. You need to be able to scan it through the till. US supermarket toilet paper sales rose 71% year-on-year in the 9 weeks to May the 2nd, according to Nielsen. And in March, US mills produced their highest monthly total of tissue and toilet paper, around 700,000 tons, according to the American Forest and Paper Association. Procter & Gamble boosted production to try and meet demand by focusing on its most popular brands. And as cities reopen, manufacturers are now preparing for a rebound in sales of commercial paper.
Toilet paper is just one item, but it goes to show how easily our supply chains can be disrupted. Of course, with disruption comes money-making opportunities. Restaurants in DC have been offering takeout toilet paper. And as for bidet sales, well, they've shot up.
So when we think about supply chain of toilet paper, what first comes to mind is where does the toilet paper come from? So basically it's all paper actually. So it comes from trees, then it's cut into lumber, then it's broken down into small jars, and then somehow put it up and into huge rolls, which are then further divided into small rolls, which we see at homes, which are sent to the wholesalers and the people uh, who have warehouses like Amazon, and then which are sold to the retailers and which are available to a supermarket or the DMarts and all the other superstores which we have around the city. So what exactly happened with this toilet paper situation in COVID-19? So I want you guys to think about the demand side of it. So what would the toilet paper demand look like before 2020? This slide shows three different graphs. One is the blue one, which has the increasing slope. The red is the ups and downs of demand, and the green is very steady demand. It's more or less growing and also becoming less at the same time. So use the chat function or unmute yourself to let us know what would the toilet paper demand would have been before 2020, before pandemic. Okay. Sayam, can you please tell us what would the demand be like in terms of the dotted lines and the colored lines which are present on the screen, like either green, blue, or red?
So I think that it would be um, green.
Yeah, Sayam and Vanilla are absolutely right. The toilet paper demand before 2020 was fairly stable, and it didn't increase or it didn't go down as huge as it did in 2020. So let's talk about the toilet paper demand in 2020. So what would it will look like in 2020? Blue. Yeah. Again, you're absolutely right. When you think about the demand in the sense that customers bought the number of toilet papers from the stores, it is blue. It was fairly, no, actually, it's blue and green both. When you look at the organic demand, people don't use toilet paper as much as if they stay at home. So if you use two toilet papers per month, you would only need two. But when you talk about stockpiling the toilet paper so that it doesn't run out, that would increase the demand. So the organic demand stays the same. It's not like you go to washrooms more times a day when you are at home. So the organic demand is the same, which would be the green line. But then people started to stockpile and buy in bulks, which increased the demand in stores and which led to stores selling out and then inventory shortages all around North America and even some other countries. So what happened here? So demand should be fairly flat, as I told you. It's not like people would go more times a day. People would go to washrooms more times a day. It's just that they wanted to have good number of toilet papers at their homes, and the supply chain, the supply chain inventory doesn't hold too much. When you think about how stores get the toilet papers from wholesalers, they get it on a monthly basis or a weekly basis. It's not like they get it every day, and mills were actually running 24/7 even before and after the COVID situation. So how can we how can we give the stores more toilet paper even when there are the mills are running 24/7? So what happened is after a few time, after a few days, after a few weeks, the toilet paper demand looked as if it was before 2020 and everything was back to normal. So there's another thing which we can look at in terms of the toilet paper supply chain. When we look at toilet paper, there are two different sectors. There is in the residential toilet paper and also the toilet paper which are used by commercial places, which would include malls and public spaces. So the quality of the two is completely different. But then when you think about it, and when there are lockdowns and quarantines in place, people would need more toilet paper at their home because they are staying at home, and the toilet paper which are being used in the public spaces would decrease because no one would be going out. So people might get the opportunity to buy the toilet paper which are used in commercial sector, public spaces, and that would even out the demand and supply disruption which was caused by COVID-19. So as I talked about, public spaces or public sectors include hospitals, hair salons, hotels, malls, any restaurants or cafes, or even airports even. So they have seen a huge decrease in number of people visiting these sectors, which would in turn mean that they don't need as much as toilet paper as they used to. So that would mean we can also reuse this toilet paper in the residential toilet paper supply chain. So this is the end of operations module. If you have any questions, please let us know. We are happy to address them right now. And please join in for tomorrow's module, which would be marketing. And let us know if you have any questions for operations right now. So these are our upcoming modules. Please note that the timing for marketing has changed to 3:30 p.m. IST. Before it was in the early morning, but now it has changed to 3:30 p.m. IST for Saturday and Sunday. If there are no questions, I'd like to thank you all for participating in operations module. We hope to see you tomorrow and all the other modules which we have planned. And you can stay in touch with us or discuss your ideas using all the social media platforms and other resources which we provide. The word of the day for today is partnership. So please note that down, and I'll also put it up on the chats.